All set? Okay. So g'day, my name is Alistair Grant. I'm part of the group at Think, and today I'm going to be talking about the recent work we've been doing on integrating Glamorous Toolkit with GemStone and what we're doing to bring moldable development to that development environment. So the objectives obviously is just to provide an update on what's happened recently and show, as I said, show how we're making GemStone development more moldable, as you've seen a bit from Tudor and Oscar in the last couple of days. So most of the demonstration is going to be as a tiny development cycle where you want to import some data into GemStone and then just be able to inspect it and make sure that it's there. So I'll start off, and there's a few bugs along the way that we have to resolve. So we start our import, and first thing that happens is something goes wrong and we get a debugger. So this is bit bigger. This one I can't make bigger. I don't think. I can try. Hold on. Yes, okay. Better? You don't actually need to read all of it. The idea is that this is a debugger. The exception actually happened on GemStone. So we started the load, said we want to run some code on GemStone. Something's gone wrong, and we've got the exception here. So you can see up here, it said that it's a message not understood, and the user group doesn't understand the message detect. So if you scroll down through the stack to the point where you can see that the does not understand is raised, obviously it happened in this method. It's highlighting the line that it's executing at the time, and it's pretty obvious that it's meant to be detect if none rather than just detect in a cascade message. So we're still working on this, but what I can do is I can double click on this and inspect the frame for that piece of execution, and it shows us the source code. And in fact, what I can do is go in here and just edit that. So semicolon shouldn't be there. So this is code that is residing on GemStone. So I'll compile that, and it's showing me the updated version there. And that's now modified the code up on the GemStone database. And the reason why we're able to do that is because we've made a first-class object of the frame. And if I have a look here, I can actually see the code. If I click on the button, I can see the code that's defined locally that goes and gets the source code and provides those two actions for compiling or removing the method, which is the whole idea behind the moldable development, is to be easily able to create these tools. Now, since this is a post-mortem debugger, I'm not able to continue, so we'll just have to restart the import again. So we'll kick that off, we'll fix this issue, and now we've got a halt. And the reason that's happened is because this is the first import we've done, so what I'd like to be able to do is look at the data before I actually commit it all and make sure that I'm basically doing the right thing. So if we have a look, what we're doing is getting a trajectory. So it's continuing on from what Tudor was showing yesterday. We're importing some GPS coordinates, so we'll have a look at those. And I've got a standard view here, which isn't terribly useful. I can see that there's some records there, and I know that there's 50 of them, but I don't know too much else. So since I'm inspecting this object, I can now just go and have a look, and if I want to, I can add a method from scratch just to save time. I've got most of it already typed in, and I put in the last little bit. Save that. Oh, make a typo. Try and save it. And now when we inspect the object, I've now got my records. So now I've got a bit more information. I can see that I've got all of those records there. I don't really know whether they're correct or not, so we can try inspecting a single record. And what we can see here is that it's roughly located in France, so it looks as though it's okay. There's about 50 records, which is what we're expecting. So I'm going to assume that that's all okay and just continue at this point. Actually, I shall do a couple of things beforehand. We've imported the data here, and what am I doing? sorry, in here, I've got the class. Now, this same class, what we're doing when we're doing this development, we're assuming that we're keeping the same code both locally and on GemStone. So one of the things I can do is have a look at the class inspector. And this is actually giving me quite a bit of information here. So the class definition as it exists in GlamorousToolkit is here. It's got two instance variables, the records and the target folder name. And if I have a look at the GemStone definition, I can see the class as it's defined in GemStone, but it's showing that there's a diff here. So if I look at it in the GT format or Faro format, I can see that there's an extra instance variable in the class, and it's the same for the GemStone format. If I have a look at the two of them, I can see that they're the same. So I know that I'm not going to be using the user instance variable, that's extraneous. So what I can do is just say, I want to transfer the class definition from GlamorousToolkit up to GemStone. So if I do that, I can say transfer GT to GemStone, and now you can see that if I go back and have a look, all of the diffs have disappeared. So now I've made the change up in GemStone, we've brought it into sync as we want. So now that we've got rid of that, we'll just continue the import. And that's succeeded. So at this point, I can have a look at I've got the user that I've imported, which is me, and I've got one track there that we've imported. So I can have a look at that, and I can see that now this is actually inspecting an object up on GemStone. So before, when we're inspecting objects, you don't have this line here. It's saying it's a proxy object. So we're able to see all of the records when we're inspecting it locally because it was a local object. Now we're looking at the version that's up on GemStone, and we're not able to see those records easily. So what we want to do instead is we'll have a look at it locally, and this is where we just edit it now, but what I want to be able to do is say send that up to GemStone. So now I can just right click on that. So I want to compile this method, and that's now put it up on GemStone. So at this point, if we inspect our object again, which is here, then I've done something wrong. What have I done wrong here? We can inspect the GemStone method and have a look at the methods and records view 4, and I haven't done something correctly. Okay, since I didn't transfer it correctly to before, I'll just go in and edit it here instead. And that's compiled it. And now it should be that. Go one more, have a look at that. And now we've got our records. Okay, so we're now at the same point. We've imported some data up to GemStone. We've got our records. It's nice to have a table, but it's not really giving us a good sense of what it is that we're looking at. So what we'd like to do is display that information in a more meaningful way. So as I said, this is a proxy. And what we're seeing here, this is the raw view of the object as it exists up on GemStone. But because it's a proxy object, there's obviously a local object that is representing that. And if I want to be able to see what that's like, I can just go here. And this is what we call a bare proxy. So if I just go through and say do something here. So what's something before? I can go in here and ask it what its target folder name is. And this is actually inspecting it up on GemStone. If I look at the proxy view and ask what its proxy object is, before self was when I'm in this view, self is the object up on GemStone. When I'm saying I want to look at the internals of the proxy object, self is the local object. And now I can see, I'm just seeing the same thing again. So what we want to do is go to this proxy object, and I can now go into the meta information here, and I can say that I want to add a view in the proxy object. So this is the local representation of the class of the object that's up on GemStone. The data doesn't exist here, it only exists on GemStone. It's just talking about how we want to look at it. So now if I save that and go back and have a look again, now I've got my new view and we can see this is what all of the data that we've imported, and this is just the track that I walk between the hotel and here in the morning. So what we've been able to do there is import the data locally, make sure that it's okay, transfer it up to GemStone, and then add views and be able to synchronize the code backwards and forwards as needed whilst we're doing this development. So there were 3 views that we added, and I think it's important to understand where you put that view depends on, as Norbert was saying before, you don't want to be transferring lots of data down. So sometimes you want to have the view defined in GemStone. Sometimes you've got information that you might want to mix in that's defined locally. And sometimes you want to copy the information down. So what we've got here is the view showing the records as a table just for a local object. In the second one, we've got a view just displaying the same information. It's the same table and everything, except that one's defined up in GemStone. And in the third one, it's the same view. It's just showing records. It's a table, and that's defined on the proxy. So I can use any one of those 3. I can decide whether to put the view in a local object up on GemStone or on a proxy, and it's all exactly the same code. I'm not sure that it's terribly readable, but they're all the same method in terms of the actual code that's there. So that's part of our multiple development. Okay, so the other thing that we keep on talking about and hammering is that we're making objects first class. So when we get the frame information back from GemStone, it's very low level, it comes from the VM, it's some basic information. So we bring that down in its low level form, but then we make it a first class object as a GemStone frame within GT. And that's what allows us then to say, okay, I can extract the information, I know what the source is. If it wasn't post-mortem, if it was a hold or something, I've got access to all the variables. And now I could go through all of the stack, inspect variables, and ultimately we'll be able to just debug it, continue step through, do all of the usual things. And it also means that because it's a first-class object, we can also supply the actions, which means that even though it's local, it knows how to take that code and pass it up to GemStone and compile it on GemStone. It's also providing commit actions there, so at any time I can decide to commit or abort. And in fact, if I have a look back here, we can see that whilst we did this, there's one object there and it's been changed. If I inspected that and had a look at this session, I can actually see all of the objects that have been modified during that. So if we scroll down through here somewhere, most of these are code changes. Here we go, but there's the audit collection. That's actually all of the data that we decided that we uploaded. So at this point I can decide whether I want to keep it by committing or whether I want to abort it. I can connect the session, disconnect, whatever I need to do. Okay, and lots of time for questions and for Geisha and everything. So that's it. That's what we've been doing for getting Glamorous Toolkit to work with GemStone recently. Thank you. And any questions? Stunned silence? Yes, up the back. So hold on, perhaps just wait for the mic.
When you were committing every time you added a new method to GemStone?
No, all of that happened inside one transaction because I chose to. I mean, I could have committed at any time and started a new transaction.
Okay. And you also had the code base in Pharaoh as well as in...
Yeah, so I mean, different people develop in different ways, but a common approach is to have all of the code the same in GemStone, and all of your domain code for your application is the same in GemStone and the same in your local image. So that's assuming that what I was doing today was basically assuming that model.
Right. And do you then, so then what you were producing at the end was the changes so that you could know what you had changed?
What I showed at the end in terms of the inspecting the session is this is actually saying, allowing you to have a look and say, do I want to commit all of this, or is there something there that I didn't expect, or is there something missing? So you don't have to, of course, but you've got that opportunity to say, when I do a commit, this is what's going to be changed. Down front here. No, hold on, wait a sec.
Pardon me if I missed it, but did you have did you make an accommodation for version control in this?
That's all part of GemStone. So we don't have a UI for it yet. That's something that we're working on. But it just works in with GemStone's version control. So there's versions for classes and for methods and everything. That's all taken care of.
Nothing like Envy per se.
No, it's not a version control system. It's a database.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Anything else? No? Okay. Thank you.